All right, so the US capture of Nicolas Maduro, the leader of Venezuela, has many implications. The UN is talking about implications for humanity here, saying the US is not following international law. We are looking at the economic implications, Aakash Bramdeo, and how is it that markets are hitting record highs?
Well, you see, politically, it doesn't matter whether you think, Trump did the right thing or wrong thing, right? Because from a South African economic perspective, especially if you're an investor, it's been absolutely brilliant. Today, the JSE hit a new all-time high. The rand is trading at some of its strongest levels in more than 3 years.
Bonds are doing well.
Then we've got the oil price, which is, at about $62 at a pretty decent level. And the gold price is doing fantastically well. The platinum price is doing fantastically well. And why is that important? Because if gold and platinum prices rise, our mining stocks, gold and platinum mining stocks, those companies do well and they pay more in taxes. So at the end of the day, it benefits the South African fiscus.
Yeah.
So thank you, Donald Trump.
So last year was a boon in many respects that you're talking about for the South African economy. We finally had a bit of an upgrade. We're still in junk status. But now we're just seeing that good news continue. So let's zone in on oil, because you would think Venezuela, with these huge oil reserves, ructions there could affect the oil price. Yeah. But now.
Yeah, and I think therein lies a very important lesson for South Africa, right? Because under Hugo Chavez, who was there before Maduro, the one thing that they did was they nationalized the oil industry.
We do hear that word in South Africa often,
right?
Yeah.
So the oil industry was nationalized. As a result, there was huge corruption that seeped through the system. Infrastructure wasn't properly maintained. And as a result, Venezuela is not producing anywhere near enough oil or the amount of oil they could produce.
Venezuela is producing about 1% of the global oil supply. And there's enough supply, right?
In fact, we said it with plenty of supply.
Crude oil.
Yeah.
So we are fine. In fact, South Africa is looking at a 4-year low in terms of petrol prices this week.
Wow, and that's amazing. And why I like that, Francis, is because lower fuel prices means inflation comes down. And when inflation comes down, hopefully the Monetary Policy Committee at the Reserve Bank decides to lower interest rates, which means you, me, and all other wage-earning South Africans,
consumers,
yes, have a little bit more money in their pockets.
Yeah, here. So short term, there are concerns that if there's pushback from Venezuela, it looks like Venezuela is going to cooperate with the US, right?
Well, they don't have an option, do they? I mean, you're looking at the world's biggest military. You look at how slick that operation was to capture Maduro. There's no way at this particular point the Venezuelans are going to be able to put up a resistance. I mean, do you really see a crack unit from Venezuela going into America and retrieving Maduro and his wife?
No,
that's not going to happen.
Although that would be dramatic and amazing to watch, and many people feel that Venezuela should push back. Okay, so maybe they have no option. There was concern of a complete collapse of oil exports. But that 1%, like we're saying, it's huge for the Venezuelan people. They rely on those exports. But the rest of us are doing fine.
And in South Africa, we don't get any oil from Venezuela. In fact, the days when we used to import crude oil, those are days that are long past, because a lot of the product that we import is finished product, petrol and diesel, because 3 of our 6 refineries are shut down. So we get our refined petrol and diesel largely from India and the Middle East. We don't deal with Venezuela in that regard.
Last year we were talking about I saw it dubbed an everything rally, because you had a lot of stocks going up, but then you had gold, which often reacts to negative news, also going up. And we have that dualism playing out now. So we've got stocks going up, markets all-time highs, but the gold price, which does register the uncertainty around what the US is doing, also up, which is great for us again.
Yeah, well, and again, and I say this, that this is largely Trump, because Trump has caused a level of uncertainty in the world that has forced gold prices higher. And last year, I mean, the gold price was up by 70%. The resources index on the JSE, the gold mining stocks, were up by 140%. This is gold mining and platinum mining companies. Trump is now talking about wanting to annex Greenland. That's going to push up gold even further.
Platinum is up as well. Platinum is huge. We supply the world with platinum. There were concerns, and platinum isn't really like gold, that safe haven, but it's got a bit of that shine, right? The precious metal grouping.
Yeah. And I mean, we often talk about gold. Gold was up 70%, the gold price. The platinum price was double at 140% in the last year. That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And, why? Well, platinum is seen as something of a precious metal. There's greater demand, especially from the Chinese. It's used in the automotive sector.
Platinum, I spoke to people at the mining in Durban last year who were saying it's because of the fuel cars back in vogue. And maybe we should thank Trump for this as well. Remember, there was a expectation that electric vehicles were going to wipe out the fuel guzzlers. Catalytic converters, which platinum is used in, are in those fuel cars, and they're not doing badly. The models around electric vehicles sort of arriving on the market en masse are not working. Again, great for South Africa.
And if you think that, let's work on the presumption that American oil companies or oil companies generally, but I presume they would be American oil companies, are going to go into Venezuela, fix up the oil fields, improve the infrastructure, and start pumping oil out to the world. Well, that's going to mean a longer term supply of relatively cheap oil, which means we're in for a fairly long term scenario of relatively cheap oil, unless those guys in OPEC, that little cartel that they operate, decide to cut back fundamentally on their supply.
Yeah, and there's fundamental ructions if the US takes Greenland, right?
Yeah.
Ukraine obviously affected oil supply because they were an exporter, but we'll see what happens if this extends to other countries.
But Francis, I think South Africa is sitting pretty well. The only danger is that we do not produce oil ourselves. So we need to import it either as crude oil and refine it in South Africa, alternatively buy finished product. But if shipping lanes to South Africa are affected, then we are in serious trouble. But other than that, we're looking pretty decent.
We are. Would you agree with me? There is a huge pity in this because the rally that we saw in gold and platinum and precious metals last year wasn't fully utilized by South Africa as it would have been if we still had all the operations that have shut down over the years. And a lot of operations have shut down.
And I really think this is an ideal opportunity for our government to have a look at what the government of Venezuela did, especially under Hugo Chavez, because every once in a while we hear mumblings about becoming more socialist and looking at things like nationalizing this and nationalizing that. And you see the impact of all of that in Venezuela, where there was hyperinflation. Inflation at one point was running at over 100% in Venezuela. You had 8 million citizens of Venezuela leave the country because they simply couldn't cope. They couldn't afford to live there.
Yeah.
And they
taking
left.
the money with
taking
them.
the money with
often.
them. There was widespread corruption. The money that was available, the tax money that was raised, was looted. And those are all lessons that South Africa can learn from.
Yeah, just looking at the commentary, I've picked up on when they talk about platinum, one of the issues actually raising the price is a lack of platinum supply because of what is going on in South Africa.
That's a brilliant point.
Yeah, so between 2008 and last year, 35% of platinum operations shut down. There was disinvestment. Jobs were lost. There was concern about a jobs bloodbath last year. Luckily, then the price came up. But imagine all those operations could have just kicked in. And there's still, maybe this is the lesson for South Africa, there's still uncertainty around policy and regulation of mining in South Africa. Not because of nationalization, because of BEE, because of the once empowered, always empowered, a bill on the table. But many experts are saying South Africa just needs to create certainty, just needs to give investors something. If you come into this country, this is what you get. These are your conditions to operate under, and we will support you.
And under Trump, it's not about ideology. And don't we just love ideology in South Africa? It's all about business. It's about being able to do transactions. And it's something that us in South Africa really need to cotton onto.
So last year, that first gold miner in 10 years started a new operation. The first in 10 years.
Yeah.
And they caught on to the big price. We'll see how this plays out. But right now, ironically, an economic boon for South Africa.
Absolutely. I mean, everything is looking good from an investment perspective. I only have one negative thing. One negative thing. You know, they say when it's too good to be true, it probably isn't. And right now, from an investment point of view, as a South African investor wanting to get into shares, or Bitcoin, or invest in gold ETFs or whatever the case may be, it's looking too good to be true.
I don't know, because I think the AI stocks in America are the concern, right? The bubble that
everyone's talking about.
But you're right, that would affect South Africa. We would be caught up in any market plunge. The JSE would not be able to resist that. All right, let's see how it plays out. That is a wrap.